Hey guys, welcome back. It is time to start onions and broccoli from seed. And there's a few things to keep in mind as you're doing this. And we're going to walk through the steps here really quick. We're going to winter sow these in actual rotisserie pans from the store. It's going to work great. And we need to do it right now. Onion seeds, 10 to 12 weeks before your last anticipated frost date. Broccoli, we want to get these guys to a good 4 to 6-ish week size before we transplant them into our garden beds. So we're going to start those right now. And my plan is to plant some of these together. We're going to have broccoli companion planted with onion for a beneficial effect for the broccoli. So we're going to use these containers. They have been well cleaned out to get all the chicken goo out. Got two. We've got one for the onions, one for the broccoli. I have one more pack of seed en route that I ordered, candy onions. I will just start those maybe in a milk jug. So I went ahead and got a midday or intermediate day onion for here in my zone, my growing zone, which is 7B-ish. I wanted to do one that was specific to this growing area with the day length. And you can kind of read up on that. Since I am in the middle, right there in the yellow, I can kind of do short day, I can kind of do long day, and I have done both before. I just kind of wanted to focus on what I should do, which is the midday onions. So I'm doing Gladstone, and I'll be doing candy onion. It's not arrived yet. For the broccoli, this is going to be tricky. So for the broccoli, yes, I would love to grow, you know, some of the giant, huge heads of broccoli. I don't have enough time. And because of my short spring season, I'm going to have to go with a very, very short days to maturity broccoli. So I found this one, Desico broccoli. It's 48 days. We'll add on an extra 7 to 10 days for good measure. So I needed a broccoli that I knew could probably make it to maturity before, let's say, end of April. Because guess what? I got to plant my tomatoes. I have a small garden and I'm definitely growing tomatoes. So I have to get this broccoli out of the way before it's time to plant my tomatoes. And there's another problem actually. So, okay. In my growing zone, it gets warm in the spring really fast. In fact, today it's like 58. It's January 28th. Monday, it's going to be 70 degrees. My broccoli wants to bolt, which means it's going to start to flower and turn bitter as soon as it's getting really hot. So I needed one for springtime that could grow as quickly as possible in a very short window. All of the other broccoli seeds I have here in the house, they were like 65, 70 day to maturity. That would definitely be way too long. So in the spring, I need a really short day to maturity broccoli. Even though these aren't going to get as big as some of the other seeds I have, they'll still be delicious if we can just stop them from bolting and get a harvest. This is not the calendar for this year. It's just one I used, I don't know, a few years ago to take some notes. So I know today is the 28th. So I know I want my broccoli plants to be about 4 to 6 weeks old before they go into the ground, which will be probably in my raised bed area. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if I go up to the first week of March, which is what I was thinking, we'll get up here to this week of March. It'll be week 5 and week 6. So this is when I would transplant them out. And when you transplant a plant, this 48 days starts the day you put it into your ground, into your soil. It's not from the day you sow the seeds indoors. It's from when it goes into the actual placement where you're going to harvest it from. So 48 days, let's just say 50, 55 days. I'm thinking we put them in the ground here first week of March. That will give us, let's see, well, getting towards the end of April, early May. I think it's worth a shot. Broccoli can take frost. It can take some cold. I'm not worried about my broccoli, especially since we're going to be winter sowing it. It's going to be accustomed to colder temperatures. It's already going to be hardened off, which will be excellent for me. I hate hardening off plants. So if we think about the onions, so if my anticipated last frost, so for this year 2021, looked like I had put either the 4th or the 11th. We'll just say the 11th of April. Count back 10 to 12 weeks. So we'll just say the 11th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10. So the last week of January is 10 weeks. So we are right on the money. We could have done this 2 weeks ago. I've been kind of busy. And I had to find the seeds. It was so hard to find midday onions here for some reason, locally. And then I placed that order a week and a half ago. They still haven't shipped it. So a little bit on the late end of that time range for your onions of 10 to 12 weeks. So let's get this started. We're going to puncture some holes with the ice pick. And I'm going to go get some potting mix that is moist but not dripping wet. And it's going to be free of mulch and barky large beds that sometimes you find in your soils you can buy locally. You can make your own soil. We're going to do things quick. I've got some purchased soil in the garage, and that is what we will use. I got the holes punctured with the ice pick, the bottom of the container. So let's go get that moist soil. If you want to start onions and or broccoli seeds or any seeds, but you don't have a rotisserie takeout container, just use a milk jug. I have a couple videos on my channel about winter sowing in milk jugs. I have a playlist called Winter Sowing. Just check that out. But while I'm waiting for my soil to absorb some of the water that I moistened it with, I'm going to cut this well cleaned out yogurt tub into strips so we can make labels for our winter sown seeds. You can see I just cut straight down. This will fan out, and then I'll just cut off all the labels that I want to use. And yep. And I've got my broccoli label ready, Desico broccoli. And so these containers I think are pretty good size. What I think I'm going to do, put in the soil. I'm going to mark off just a small part in the front with a divider like that. You know, maybe like a quarter of the front part of this container. And I'm going to put maybe just, I don't know, 3 or 4 of these cauliflower seeds. I do have some cauliflower in the garden that I think survived the really rough weather we've had the past month. Unusually cold, lots of precipitation and snow and ice, but I think it made it. I think it's too soon to tell. It may just immediately start bolting here as we're warming up, but just in case it doesn't, I'm thinking 4 or 5 seeds just to be safe. This is a 60-day variety. And I don't need a ton of cauliflower coming in all at once. Now with the broccoli, I do want it all to come in at once because I need the garden space for my summer items. And I will freeze what we can't eat fresh. And that'll be fine. I just don't really particularly care for frozen cauliflower. So we're just doing 4 of those, 4 or 5. I'm going to go ahead and use up this whole packet for the remainder of this container because these are pretty old seeds. The seeds seem to last forever. Like I feel like I've used the same seed pack for years, multiple times, and there's still a ton of seeds in here. Now remember, this is a smaller broccoli head, but that's okay because we just need to get this done as quickly as possible before we get hot. I'm using 2 different garden pens. This is just a regular old Sharpie, but it's like a large wide width. And then this is an actual garden pen that's not supposed to run or fade. We shall see. I'm going to cut this label in half. So I've got 1/2 for the cauliflower, 1/2 for the broccoli. I have grown this cauliflower before. It does really, really well for me. In fact, I was so proud. I think it was last year. I got like 3 or 4 huge heads. I'll put a picture here. I was so proud of this broccoli. I mean, all right, I've got my divider in place. And brassica babies, they all look the same when they're coming up. So I'm going to be really careful putting, I think I'll do broccoli first. And I'll put, maybe I'll do like, hold this up as I'm putting the seeds on there. And then I'll just place the cauliflower seeds there so I don't get them all mixed up. But it's okay if we do. I mean, I'll be happy for whatever wants to grow and produce for me in my garden this spring. Yeah, there is still a lot of seeds in here. So I'm not sure if I will do the entire pack. I would guess that's 100 seeds. Do not need 100 heads of broccoli. I do not have anywhere to put them. So maybe we'll just do like 1/3 of these. And I think we'll still get great germination even though these seeds are 4-ish years old. So I'm double checking here on the broccoli on the back of the package. And you can see start indoors is the same as start outdoors. So that's kind of interesting, right? But it does look like, okay, soil temperature is at least 40 degrees. You know, my goodness, my soil temperature may be getting close to that within the next couple weeks. So we'll keep an eye on these guys. As soon as I feel like they're big enough to handle the transplant, the soil temperature is warm enough in the garden, I will try to get them into their permanent placement. But I do have the seeds in place, and I'm going to double check. Okay, so soil depth is only 1/8 of an inch, which is not much of anything. So I'm just going to do just a wee bit of a sprinkling on top. I'm not going to bury these deep. I always try to err on the side of burying too shallow versus burying too deep. Too deep would definitely be more of a hindrance to you in your garden than burying much shallower. Alrighty, so those are barely covered. You may still see a few seeds poking through, like there's one right there. But you just barely cover them, and you can fix leggy brassicas, no problem. We'll talk about that later. And actually, we will probably not even have that problem because we are using the sun outside, which is so much powerful than any artificial light you could try to replicate in your house. And that is one also benefit of winter sowing that I absolutely love so much. Okay, so we've got our amazing cauliflower. We've got our Desico broccoli, and we're going to put the lid on, but we do need to modify it slightly. So there's only 2 little vent holes. So I'm going to go ahead and tear a couple more holes into this lid. And there we go. We've got our little mini greenhouse with a bunch of baby broccoli plants to come, a few cauliflower plants. So if it gets super hot, all I have to do is pop this lid off. And the reason you do want to clean them really well is because if you have a lot of, wildlife hanging around like I do, they may be attracted to the smell of that chicken if you don't get all of this off really, really well. I mean, we've got bobcats running around, black bears, raccoons are going to be the worst, possums. They're always looking for something. And yeah, so this is well cleaned. It looks great. Really excited to see how quickly these germinate. This little greenhouse is going to definitely get these guys in that optimal germination range. Off the top of my head, I'm going to guess that's 60 to 70 degrees. I'll put it here on the screen if I'm not saying that correctly. And so we want it kind of warm during germination. But after germination, when we have these seedlings, they're not going to be too happy if it gets 80, 90 degrees in this little greenhouse. So then on days that it's nice and warm and we know that we're getting really hot in here, we are going to take these lids off. And we may even need to keep these in part sun to control that heat. But this is just a great, easy way to get these guys growing. So now let's move on to the onions. And we'll do this super quickly. Before I do the onion bin there, I wanted to show you where these guys are going to be hanging out. They're going to be hanging out on my deck, which in this time of year, when the trees are bare from leaves, it does get a lot of sun. But we're still have shorter days than we do in the summer. I think we're still going to get just probably 6 hours of sun a day. So like a good high part sun location. If I seem to, be worried about these guys that are getting too hot, I will find a more low part sun, maybe 3-4 hours a day. But for now, they're going to go right there with my other 2 milk jugs. And I do have a lot of winter sowing to get done here in the next week or 2. I know from past experience of starting onion seeds that I don't need a lot of depth and I don't need a big container. We are going to jam pack these seeds in. And 1 package for me, this side on the right, would be perfect for just this 1 packet. I'm going to leave this one empty for when those candy onion seeds come in, and then I will just plant them the day they arrive. Same way we're going to plant these guys. These are a little bit more soil on top, so I want about, thinking this is more of a 1/4 inch. Yes, it is a 1/4 inch depth. So we're just going to sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. The soil's already moist, but it's not dripping wet. It's not coming out the bottom and making a big mess everywhere. It's just nice and moist. I'm going to sprinkle these, put that little bit of soil on top, mist that. Then we're going to cut this container just like we did the other one. And then we will move them outside. So I don't know if you noticed on the last container, I had like 3 rectangle kind of openings, similar to the opening of a milk jug. That is to let moisture in and air to move in and out of this container, because it is going to get hot and we need some venting. And it's okay if they're really close together. We will thin them. And there we go, guys. My onions are halfway planted. I'm waiting on that other seed pack. But this makes me feel really good that I took the time to get this done. It really didn't take me that long today. And using these winter sowing containers just really takes all of the hassle out of setting up a growing system in my house, which for me is usually right here in this bay window. It's kind of a nuisance. So if I can grow something outdoors with winter sowing to make my setup, my growing, and then my hardening off and transplanting out much easier, I'm going to do it. So I've got onions, broccoli, a little cauliflower, and I'm really trying to focus this year on what can I grow that is going to make me feel more at ease. You know, so I gave up on shelling peas after 1 year of growing them. That's a lot of work for something I can buy organic, really cheap, right? Whereas these onions, if I get a great onion harvest this year and I'm able to store a lot for winter, that is going to be peace of mind, because onions get recalled all the time. Anytime I have to buy a bag of onions, I'm always fearful that it's going to be recalled or it's contaminated with some kind of bacteria that could poison or make my family really sick. So onions for me this year, yes. Greens, lettuce, I'm trying to grow a lot of. That's another high-risk item that gets recalled a lot. Now the broccoli, that's something I can freeze that my family loves. We eat a lot of broccoli. So I'm trying to grow more of the broccoli versus cauliflower, which I don't really like frozen. So I'm just trying to think along those lines. As far as now that it's January, we're moving into February soon, I'm really planning my garden. I'm really thinking about how can I be most effective with what I'm growing. So what are your thoughts along those lines as well? Let me know what you're growing down below. Have you started your onion seeds? Do you have your broccoli started? I mean, we're getting to that deadline. Even if you're a much cooler zone, you really got to be getting on the ball. So I will talk to you guys soon. I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful week.